Hey guys, tonight we're going to dive into a story that's been told and retold for millennia, one that often gets polished up and presented as a grand adventure, but we're going to peel back those layers, get a little uncomfortable, and look at the gritty, brutal reality behind one of mythology's most famous figures, Hercules. Imagine for a moment, being born into a world where gods play games with human lives, where divine jealousy can utterly derail your existence before you even take your first breath. Think about living under a constant shadow, not just of your own mistakes, but of the arbitrary whims of beings far more powerful than you could ever comprehend. You probably wouldn't last a day, let's be honest, so. Before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here, and while you're settling in, let me know where you're listening from and what time it is. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're born, or rather, you're about to be born, into a world simmering with divine resentment. Your mother, Alcmene, is already married to Amphitryon, a respected Theban general, but then Zeus, the king of the gods, in his infinite capacity for deception and infidelity, decides he wants her. He disguises himself as Amphitryon, returns home early from battle, and spends 3 nights with Alcmene. 3 nights. Imagine the audacity, the sheer disregard for mortal bonds, and you, Heracles or Hercules, as the Romans would later call him, are the result of that deception. It's a birthright tainted by lies and divine hubris, a dark cloud hanging over your very existence from the start. Now, Hera, Zeus's notoriously jealous wife, is not one to let such transgressions slide. She's furious, as you might expect, when she discovers Zeus's latest escapade and the impending birth of his demigod son. She vows vengeance. Her hatred isn't just a fleeting emotion, it's a deep, burning inferno that will shape every single moment of your life. She orchestrates a cruel trick on Zeus, making him swear an oath that the next descendant of Perseus, born that day, would rule over all the surrounding lands. Zeus, ever the impulsive one, agrees, not realizing Hera's cunning plan. She then delays your birth, binding Alcmene with magic, while simultaneously hastening the birth of Eurystheus, your cousin, who is sickly and weak, but conveniently also a descendant of Perseus. This simple act of divine manipulation immediately strips you of your birthright, condemning you to serve Eurystheus, the very man who will later assign you the infamous 12 labours. So, you arrive in the world, a crying infant, strong even then, a symbol of Zeus's illicit desires and Hera's vengeful wrath. Alcmene, terrified of Hera's fury, initially exposes you in a field, hoping to avoid the goddess's direct attention. But Athena, Zeus's wise daughter and one of your few divine allies, finds you. She takes you to Hera herself, tricking the goddess into suckling you, the milk of a goddess, they say, bestows immortality, or at least incredible strength. But the moment Hera realizes who you are, she flings you away, her milk spraying across the heavens to form the Milky Way. It's a moment of both divine blessing and visceral rejection, a duality that will define your entire life. You are touched by the gods, but forever marked by their conflicts. Even in infancy, Hera's malice is relentless. She sends 2 massive serpents into your cradle, intending to end your life before it truly begins. Imagine, as a mere babe, waking to the cold, scaly coils of a venomous snake slithering over your tiny limbs. Most infants would scream, cower, or simply succumb, but you, even then, are different, with the innate strength of a demigod. You grasp at each serpent by the throat, squeezing the life out of them with your bare hands. Your foster father, Amphitryon, and mother Alcmene rush in, expecting to find a tragedy, only to witness you, a wide-eyed infant, proudly holding up the lifeless serpents. This early display of extraordinary power is both a marvel and a terrifying omen. It confirms your divine parentage, but also serves as a stark reminder of the dangers that constantly lurk. Sent by a goddess who will stop at nothing to see you undone, your childhood, despite these ominous beginnings, is spent in the city of Thebes. You're raised by Amphitryon, who, despite knowing you're not his biological son, treats you as his own. You receive an education befitting a prince, learning various arts and skills. Linus, Orpheus's brother, teaches you music, though your temper, even as a youth, is volatile. When Linus tries to discipline you for a perceived lack of effort or talent, you strike him down with your lyre, killing him. It's a shocking incident, a foreshadowing of the uncontrolled raw power that resides within you, a power that can be as destructive as it is heroic. This episode leads Amphitryon to send you away to the countryside, to live among shepherds, hoping that the rustic life will temper your wild nature and teach you discipline. This period of exile isn't one of idleness. You spend your youth honing your incredible physical abilities. You live off the land, wrestle wild animals, and become intimately familiar with the rugged landscape. It's during this time that you grow into a man of immense stature and unparalleled strength. Your legend begins to spread, not just from your lineage, but from your deeds. You're already a formidable warrior, long before the labours begin. Think about the isolation, the sheer solitude, punctuated by intense physical exertion. You're not training for glory, you're simply living, surviving, and perhaps, subconsciously, preparing for a destiny you don't yet understand. A key turning point in your youth comes with the Thespian lion. This wasn't some minor nuisance. It was a monstrous beast ravaging the herds of King Thespius of Thespiae, a neighbouring kingdom. You, still a young man, decide to take on this challenge. For 50 days, you hunt the lion, finally cornering it and slaying it with your bare hands. This act of heroism isn't just about protecting livestock. It's a public declaration of your burgeoning power. You don the lion's hide as your first trophy, a symbol of your strength that will become your iconic attire. It's a grim, bloody task, far from the polished image of a hero. You're not just fighting a beast, you're proving your worth, both to yourself and to a world that simultaneously fears and admires your raw power. It's also during this time that you have a significant encounter with vice and virtue. This is a common historical trope, often debated by scholars as an allegory for moral choices. As you consider your future, two majestic women appear to you. One, vice, is alluring and promises a life of ease, pleasure and immediate gratification. The other, virtue, is stern but noble, offering a path of hardship, struggle, and eventual glory and honour. You choose the path of virtue, recognizing that true greatness comes through effort and sacrifice. This philosophical choice solidifies your commitment to a life of heroism, even if you don't yet realize the sheer brutality that awaits you. Your first major military exploit comes when Thebes is forced to pay tribute to King Erginus of Orchomenus. Every year, Thebes must send 100 cattle to Orchomenus as recompense for a past offence. You, now a grown man, find this tribute humiliating and unjust. You rally the Theban forces, leading them in a decisive victory against Erginus. You not only defeat the Orchomenians, but reverse the tribute, forcing them to pay double to Thebes. This act of military prowess earns you the respect of the Theban king, Creon, who, as a reward, offers you his daughter, Megara. In marriage, you marry Megara, and together you have several children. For a brief period, it seems you might finally find some semblance of peace, a normal life with a family. You are a celebrated hero, a strong husband, a loving father. This is as close to domestic bliss as you will ever get. But Hera's hatred, as we've established, is relentless and patient. She had been biding her time, waiting for the moment to strike. She descends upon you, not with physical force, but with a horrifying psychological attack. She sends a fit of madness upon you, a terrifying, uncontrollable rage that twists your perception of reality. In your delusional state, you mistake your wife, Megara, and your own children for monstrous enemies. Imagine the terror, the confusion, the sheer agony of believing your loved ones are something else, something evil, something that must be destroyed. Under the influence of this divine madness, you commit an unspeakable act. You kill your wife and children. It's a grotesque, heart-wrenching tragedy, a complete inversion of everything a hero should stand for. The precise details of how it happened vary in different accounts. Some say you threw them into a fire, others that you shot them with arrows, but the outcome is always the same. Their innocent lives are extinguished by your own hand. Guided by a force beyond your control, when the madness finally lifts, and you awaken to the horrifying reality of what you have done, the grief, the guilt, and the despair are overwhelming. It's a wound that will never truly heal, a stain on your soul that no amount of heroic deeds can fully wash away. This is not the clean, noble death of a monster. It is the agonizing, senseless loss of everything you hold dear. You are utterly shattered by this event. The weight of your actions, even if divinely induced, is unbearable. You consider taking your own life, but your friends and family prevent you, seeking purification and guidance. You consult the Oracle of Delphi, the most renowned prophetic voice in the ancient world. You are desperate for a way to atone, to find some semblance of redemption for the atrocities you committed. The Pythia, the priestess of Apollo, delivers a chilling prophecy. She tells you that you must go to Tiryns and serve King Eurystheus for 12 years, and it is Eurystheus who will set before you a series of seemingly impossible tasks, the 12 labours, as penance for your sins. This is the moment your legendary journey truly begins, born not of a noble quest, but of an unimaginable tragedy and a desperate need for atonement. The oracle's pronouncement isn't a suggestion, it's a divine command, a heavy burden placed upon your shoulders. You, the mighty Hercules, are now a servant, bound by fate and divine decree to a man you despise, a man whose cowardice and petty vindictiveness will be tested at every turn. You arrive in Tiryns, a city you despise, a place that now represents your servitude and humiliation. King Eurystheus, your sickly and cowardly cousin, is everything you are not: weak, petty, and deeply insecure. He lives in constant fear of your immense power, a fear that fuels his vindictiveness and makes him determined to break you. He doesn't want you to succeed. He wants you to fail, to be humiliated, to die. This isn't a benevolent king assigning noble quests. It's a desperate man trying to assert dominance over a demigod he secretly envies and publicly resents. You are not a hero on a glorious adventure. You are a convicted criminal serving a sentence, and your probation officer is a pathetic tyrant. Your first task, a seemingly impossible feat designed to be your undoing, is the Nemean Lion. Eurystheus demands you kill it and bring back its hide. This isn't just any lion, it's a monstrous beast, a terror ravaging the region of Nemea, with a skin so thick it's impervious to conventional weapons. Imagine the fear it instilled in the local populace. You set off, probably with a grim determination, understanding that this is just the beginning of your agonizing penance. When you arrive in Nemea, you find the villages deserted, the land ravaged, and a palpable sense of dread hanging in the air. You track the lion for days, through dense forest and rugged terrain. You try shooting arrows at it, but they bounce off its impenetrable hide. You wield your club, a weapon made from an olive tree you uprooted with your bare hands, but even that barely phases the beast. This is no ordinary hunt. It's a grueling, primal battle against a creature seemingly immune to mortal harm. Historians still debate whether the lion's invulnerability was a magical property or simply an exaggeration of its immense physical toughness. But for you, it was a terrifying reality. You realise that brute force alone won't work. You have to be smarter, more cunning. You discover the lion's lair, a cave with 2 entrances. You block one entrance with rocks, sealing off its escape route. Then, you enter the other, confronting the beast in the confined darkness of its own domain. Imagine the roar, the stench of blood and wild animal, the sheer terror of being trapped in a cave with an unstoppable predator. You grapple with it, a desperate struggle of man against beast. Your hands find its massive throat, and you squeeze, applying every ounce of your demigod strength. The lion thrashes, its claws tearing at you, but its hide, impenetrable to weapons, is also its weakness against your crushing grip. Slowly, agonizingly, you strangle the Nemean Lion to death. It's a dirty, brutal victory, covered in sweat, dust, and the lion's saliva. Now comes the next challenge, skinning it. Your conventional tools are useless. You try knives, but they break. You then realise the answer lies in the beast itself. Using one of the lion's own claws, a morbidly poetic detail, you manage to flay the hide from its body. This isn't a clean process, it's messy, laborious and frankly disgusting. You then don the lion's hide, not just as a trophy, but as armour. Its impenetrable skin now your protective cloak. You sling the massive carcass over your shoulder and begin the long, arduous trek back to Tyrins, probably smelling like a very dead lion. When you finally arrive back in Mycenae with the lion's hide, Eurystheus is absolutely terrified. Your success doesn't impress him, it petrifies him. He had expected you to fail, to die. The sight of you, clad in the Nemean Lion's impervious hide, confirms his worst fears about your power. He's so afraid that he forbids you from entering the city gates again, ordering you to display your trophies outside the walls. From that point on, he begins hiding in a bronze jar whenever you return from a labour, sending his commands through a herald. Copreus. Remember that kind of pathetic cowardice, because it's a recurring theme. It's a hilarious image if it wasn't so utterly demeaning for you. You've just faced down a monstrous beast, and your king is literally hiding in a pot. Your second labour, hot on the heels of the first, is the Lernaean Hydra. This creature is even more terrifying than the lion, a multi-headed serpent dwelling in the swamps of Lerna, near Argos. Its breath is poisonous, its fangs drip with venom, and for every head you cut off, 2 more grow back in its place. To make matters worse, one of its heads is immortal. This task isn't just about strength, it's a puzzle of horrific proportions, designed to be unwinnable. Eurystheus likely grinned when he assigned this one. You don't go alone this time. You bring your nephew, Iolaus, with you. He's your loyal companion, your charioteer and, as it turns out, your crucial ally. You journey to the swamps, a desolate, murky landscape, reeking of decay and death, the perfect lair for such a monster. You locate the Hydra's den, a spring called Amimone, and begin to draw it out. Imagine the sight, the ground trembling, the foul stench intensifying, and then, from the depths of the marsh, those serpentine heads rising, hissing, their eyes glowing with malevolent intelligence. The battle is gruesome. You strike with your club, severing a head, only for 2 more to sprout almost instantly. Writhing and snapping, the venomous blood seeps into the ground, poisoning the very earth around you. This is a losing battle by traditional means. You're bleeding, exhausted, and the monster just keeps regenerating. It's a horrifying realization your strength, which saved you from the lion, is useless against this creature's unique biology. This is the kind of situation that breaks most heroes, but Iolaus, bless his quick thinking, has an idea. He realizes that cauterization is the key. As soon as you chop off a head, he rushes in with a burning brand, searing the stump before new heads can grow. It's a coordinated, desperate dance of death. You chop. He burns, chop, burn, The air fills with the smell of burning flesh and the Hydra's agonizing shrieks. This is a meticulous, bloody process requiring immense focus and perfect timing. One slip, one missed cauterization, and you're back to square one, or worse, overwhelmed by the multiplying heads. To add to the chaos, Hera, still seething with rage, sends a giant crab to attack you, pinching your foot. This isn't some tiny crustacean, it's a monstrous crab sent by a goddess to distract and hinder you. A minor inconvenience in the grand scheme of the Hydra, but a testament to Hera's relentless, petty interference. You crush the crab underfoot, dispatching it quickly, but it's a reminder that the gods are always watching, always scheming. Finally, after an exhausting and nauseating battle, you reach the immortal head. You sever it and, following Iolaus's suggestion, bury it deep beneath a massive rock, ensuring it can never regenerate. The Hydra is defeated. But the battle isn't over. You then dip your arrows in the Hydra's potent venom, making them instantly lethal. This is a double-edged sword. These arrows will be incredibly effective in future labours, but they also represent a deadly poison that could prove fatal to you or others if mishandled. This is a common mythical theme, where a hero gains a powerful tool that also carries a grave risk. You return to Tiryns, probably covered in Hydra slime and reeking of sulphur, your face grim, your body aching. Eurystheus, still cowering in his bronze jar, is even more infuriated by your success. He immediately invalidates this labour, claiming it doesn't count because you received help from Iolaus. It's a petty, transparent excuse to extend your servitude, to keep you under his thumb. This isn't about justice or atonement for him, it's about control and humiliation. The injustice of it all must burn. But you are bound by the oracle's decree, forced to endure the unreasonable demands of a coward. You now have the Nemean Lion's hide and the Hydra's venomous arrows, two powerful symbols of your brutal triumphs, and a growing understanding that this journey will be far longer and more agonizing than you ever imagined. You're not just fighting monsters, you're fighting the gods, fate, and the petty machinations of a truly pathetic king. This is the truly boring, repetitive part of being a mythological hero. Endless, thankless tasks for someone who doesn't even have the guts to look you in the eye. Your next task, another seemingly impossible demand from the perpetually cowering Eurystheus, is the capture of the Ceryneian hind. This isn't just any deer, it's a magnificent creature, sacred to Artemis, the goddess of the hunt and the wilderness. It has golden antlers, hooves of bronze, and it's impossibly swift, capable of outrunning any arrow. Imagine the sheer audacity of this demand: capture a divine creature, alive, without harming it, knowing that offending Artemis could bring down the wrath of yet another Olympian. Eurystheus likely relished the thought of you incurring divine vengeance or failing spectacularly. You set out, not with weapons ready for a fight, but with a hunter's patience and cunning. This isn't a battle of brute force like the lion or the Hydra. It's a test of endurance, tracking skills, and sheer persistence. You chase the hind for an entire year. Think about that for a moment. 365 days of relentless pursuit, across vast distances, through every kind of terrain imaginable. You traverse mountains, cross rivers, probably navigate dense forests, never truly sleeping soundly, always on the trail of this elusive creature. You follow it north into Hyperborea, the mythical land beyond the north wind, and even to the remote parts of Thrace. Your body pushed to its absolute limits of exhaustion. This isn't glorious combat, it's an agonizing marathon, a grueling exercise in tedium and frustration. You're not fighting a monster, you're simply running, day after day, week after week, month after month, wearing down yourself as much as the animal. This particular labour might have been the most boring of them all for you, the sheer monotony, perhaps more maddening than any physical danger. Finally, after a year of this ceaseless pursuit, the hind, equally exhausted, takes refuge by the river Ladon in Arcadia. It's here that you seize your opportunity. Some accounts say you catch it while it rests, others that you wound it slightly with an arrow, a single, precise shot to its leg, just enough to immobilize it without killing it or causing lasting harm. Imagine the tension of that moment, the delicate balance between capture and sacrilege. You then hoist the enormous hind onto your shoulders, a testament to your superhuman strength, even after a year of chasing, and begin the long journey back to Mycenae. But the journey is not without incident. As you are returning, you encounter Artemis herself, accompanied by her twin brother Apollo. She is, predictably, furious. How dare a mortal touch her sacred animal? You must explain your predicament. The divine madness, the oracle's decree, the penance imposed by Eurystheus. You carefully explain that you are merely fulfilling your labour, promising to return the hind to her care once your task is complete. It's a delicate diplomatic dance with a goddess known for her fierce independence and vengeful nature. Luckily, Artemis, perhaps seeing the genuine remorse and the divine compulsion behind your actions, relents. She accepts your explanation, allowing you to present the hind to Eurystheus before you must immediately release it back into her wilderness. This brief interaction with a deity is a stark reminder of the tenuous line you walk, constantly balancing mortal obligations with divine wrath. You bring the hind, alive and unharmed or mostly unharmed, save for a minor leg wound, to Eurystheus. He, no doubt, is crestfallen. He probably thought you'd be impaled by the hind's golden antlers or struck down by Artemis herself. Your success, once again, only serves to deepen his petty fear and resentment. He likely took one look at the magnificent creature, probably still breathing heavily from its year-long chase, and immediately shooed you away, ordering you to release it as per your agreement with Artemis. This labour, while lacking the gore of the previous ones, was a test of unyielding patience and respect for divine boundaries, something many heroes often overlook. Next up, still probably exhausted from your year-long chase, is the Erymanthian boar. This is a far more brutish challenge, a monstrous wild boar terrorizing the slopes of Mount Erymanthus in Arcadia. This wasn't just a large pig, it was a savage, destructive force, ravaging crops, goring people and livestock. Think of a creature the size of a small car, with tusks like sharpened daggers, driven by pure, untamed aggression. Eurystheus, ever the coward, probably hoped it would simply trample you to death. You travel to Arcadia, to the rugged forested slopes of Mount Erymanthus. You begin the hunt, tracking the boar through the wilderness. This is a more direct confrontation than the hind, but still requires strategy. You don't just charge in head first. You understand the terrain, the boar's habits, its brute strength. You slowly, patiently, drive the boar up the mountain, pushing it deeper and deeper into the heavy snows. The boar, for all its power, begins to exhaust itself, sinking into the deep drifts. Scholars often debate whether this was a strategic choice by Hercules or simply a fortunate environmental factor, but the outcome was the same. Once the boar is thoroughly tired and mired in the snow, you seize it. This isn't a clean kill. You probably grapple with it, wrestling the massive, snorting, powerful beast into submission. Imagine the raw muscle, the grunts, the struggles against its immense strength, the stink of boar, mud, and effort. You then bind it, alive, and, in a display of incredible strength and possibly a grim sense of humour, hoist it onto your shoulders. You probably look like a walking meat truck, a horrifying living trophy. The return journey to Mycenae with the live Erymanthian boar is where this labour truly becomes memorable for its sheer absurdity and Eurystheus's reaction. You arrive back at the city, probably covered in mud and boar bristles, with the massive, squealing, furious boar still alive and struggling on your shoulders. Eurystheus, seeing you approach with this monstrous, snorting animal, is absolutely beside himself with fear. He doesn't even wait for you to bring it inside the city walls. He scrambles, once again, into his beloved bronze jar, whimpering, begging you to get the beast away from him. It's almost comical, if it wasn't so utterly pathetic. You, the demigod hero, have just wrestled a wild boar into submission, and your king is hiding in a pot like a terrified child. This particular detail, Eurystheus hiding in the jar, is a classic historical fact often depicted in ancient art, highlighting his cowardice and your unending humiliation. You simply toss the boar down, letting it thrash about, probably enjoying the terrified squeals emanating from the bronze pot. The boar, no doubt, is eventually released or contained, but its purpose has been served. You've completed another impossible task, further solidifying your legendary status, while simultaneously highlighting the ignoble nature of your servitude. Each success only serves to deepen Eurystheus's fear, and thus his desire to be rid of you, making the next labour even more treacherous. You're becoming an unstoppable force, a divine weapon, but still a puppet in the hands of a fearful, petty king. The ongoing cycle of seemingly insurmountable challenges in Eurystheus's ridiculous reactions is starting to feel like a very long, very exhausting play that you're forced to star in. Your next set of assignments from Eurystheus, still hiding in his bronze jar, pushes you into an entirely different realm of challenge. No longer just raw strength or endurance. These labours demand more precision, more strategic thinking, and a willingness to deal with creatures that defy conventional combat. You're becoming increasingly accustomed to the absurdity of your situation, the constant cycle of impossible tasks followed by your cousin's petrified whimpers. It's a tiresome routine, but one you are bound to. The fifth labour, which should have been the third according to the original count, is the Stymphalian birds. Eurystheus, ever keen to invalidate your successes, deemed the Hydra and Augean Stables, which you haven't even done yet, and he's already cheating, as null and void. So, this is your fifth real task. These weren't just ordinary birds, they were monstrous, man-eating avians with bronze beaks, sharp metallic feathers they could shoot like arrows, and claws that could shred flesh. They plagued the region of Stymphalia in Arcadia, nesting by a noxious swamp, their droppings poisoning the land and their numbers growing rapidly, making the area uninhabitable. Imagine trying to clear an entire region of a perpetually regenerating flock of metal-feathered, flesh-eating birds. It's less a fight and more an extermination, a public health crisis, if you will. You arrive at the vast fetid Stymphalian marsh, the air thick with the stench of decay and the ominous rustle of unseen wings. Arrows and javelins are useless against such a swarm, and their metallic feathers could pierce your Nemean Lion hide. You can't simply charge into a flock of flying, armoured assassins. This is a task that requires a different approach, one not based on direct confrontation. You're likely pondering your next move, perhaps feeling a familiar wave of exhaustion from the relentless nature of these labours. Then, a divine intervention. One of the few moments of genuine assistance you receive. Athena, your ever-present divine patron, appears before you. She understands the futility of a direct assault and offers you a clever solution. She presents you with a pair of magnificent bronze rattles, forged by the divine smith Hephaestus. These aren't your average noisemakers. These are instruments capable of producing an ear-splitting, unbearable din, a sound so piercing it would send even the bravest warrior scrambling for cover. Archaeological evidence suggests that ancient Greeks often used percussive instruments in rituals, but the idea of divine rattles for bird control is certainly a unique mythical twist. You climb to a nearby mountain, probably a high peak overlooking the swamp, providing you with a vantage point. Then, you begin to rattle the bronze clappers. Imagine the noise, echoing through the desolate landscape, a cacophony so intense it could make your teeth ache. The sound is utterly deafening, a relentless assault on the senses. The Stymphalian birds, disoriented and terrified by the unbearable noise, begin to take flight in a panicked, chaotic swarm. This is your chance. As they rise into the air, confused and exposed, you draw your Hydra-poisoned arrows. This is where the grim utility of your previous labour truly pays off. You loose volley after volley of poisoned shafts into the panicked flock. The arrows, now tipped with the deadly venom, strike with horrifying efficiency, bringing down dozens, then hundreds of the birds. It's less a noble hunt and more a slaughter, a systematic extermination of a nuisance. The sky fills with falling, dead birds, their bronze feathers glinting in the sun as they plummet into the swamp below. You keep rattling, keep firing, until the last of the birds have either fallen or fled in the terror, never to return to Stymphalia. The land, once blighted, can now begin to heal. And two, you return to Eurystheus, probably smelling faintly of swamp and dead bird, without a bird carcass or feather to show, but with the undeniable proof of your success a clear region. Eurystheus, of course, probably scoffs, perhaps grumbling about the lack of a tangible trophy, but the fact remains the birds are gone. Another impossible task completed, another notch on your belt of reluctant heroism, another moment of frustration for your cowering king, your sixth labour, or perhaps the seventh depending on Eurystheus's creative accounting, is the capture of the Cretan bull. This isn't just a bull, it's a magnificent, wild beast, either sent by Poseidon or associated with the myth of Pasiphae and the Minotaur. It was ravaging the island of Crete, a destructive force of nature that King Minos himself was unable to control. Eurystheus, probably hoping you'd be gored to death, sends you off to a foreign land for this task. You travel to Crete, an island far from your familiar Peloponnesian haunts. You meet with King Minos, who, unlike Eurystheus, is a relatively reasonable ruler. He's probably relieved to see you. Given his own inability to deal with the rampaging bull, he offers you aid, but you, in your typical fashion, choose to undertake the task alone. You prefer to rely on your own strength and cunning, a testament to your independent spirit, but also a reflection of the solitary burden you carry. You track the bull to its lair, probably a wild, untamed part of the island. This isn't a battle of wits like the Stymphalian birds, nor a chase like the hind. This is a direct, brutal confrontation with a massive, powerful animal. You engage the Cretan bull in a wrestling match, a raw test of strength against pure, untamed bovine fury. Imagine grappling with an animal of that size, its immense weight, its powerful muscles, its sharp horns. You probably get tossed around, kicked, perhaps even gored slightly before you manage to gain control. You wrestle it to the ground, subdue it, and, demonstrating your immense power, you manage to mount it. Then, in a truly extraordinary display, you ride the Cretan bull across the Aegean Sea, from Crete all the way back to mainland Greece, to the coast near Mycenae. Imagine the sight, a demigod riding a monstrous bull across the open sea, the waves crashing around you, the bull bellowing its defiance. It's a surreal, almost dreamlike journey, a testament to your sheer will and strength. Academic debate exists on whether this was a literal sea crossing or a metaphor for a swift, overwhelming capture, but the myth insists on the visual spectacle of the ride. It's a moment that combines immense power with a touch of the fantastical, setting it apart from the purely brutal nature of some of your other tasks. Upon your arrival, Eurystheus, still in his jar, is predictably terrified. He probably screams, telling you to get the bull away from him immediately. He offers to sacrifice it to Hera, but she, still your bitter enemy, refuses the offering, unwilling to accept anything that brings you glory, the bull is eventually released, and it roams freely in the region of Marathon, eventually becoming the infamous Marathonian bull that Theseus will later contend with. You've once again completed a task that showcases your strength and versatility, further frustrating your cowardly cousin and bringing you one step closer to the end of your agonizing penance. Each labour brings you closer to redemption, but also deeper into the labyrinth of divine and mortal squabbles. You're becoming a legend, but one built on a foundation of pain, sacrifice, and the unending annoyance of dealing with a king who'd rather hide in a pot than face you. You're now deep into your labours, the rhythm of impossible tasks and Eurystheus's petrified reactions firmly established. Your body aches. Your mind is perpetually vigilant, but your determination remains unbroken. The next 3 tasks are a chaotic mix of practical, grotesque, and deceptively dangerous, pushing your ingenuity as much as your strength. First up, a truly disgusting affair, the Augean Stables. Eurystheus, in his infinite pettiness, assigns you this task, hoping to humiliate you with a chore beneath a hero's dignity. King Augeas of Elis owned vast herds of cattle, and his stables had not been cleaned for over 30 years. Imagine the sheer volume of the accumulated filth mountains of dung, disease-ridden straw, the stench permeating the entire region. This wasn't just a dirty stable, it was an ecological disaster, a health hazard, a monument to gross negligence. The task was not just to clean it, but to do it in a single day. This is a common historical fact, often highlighted in ancient texts as a testament to Augeas' neglect. You arrive in Elis, probably bracing yourself for the overwhelming stench. You survey the colossal stables, realizing that simply shoveling wouldn't work. The sheer volume was too immense, the time too short. This isn't a task for brute force alone, it demands ingenuity. You realize the solution lies in rerouting rivers. You identify 2 nearby rivers, the Alpheus and the Peneus. You then proceed to dig massive trenches, diverting the course of both rivers directly through the stable compound. Imagine the immense effort digging channels, wide and deep enough to carry the full force of 2 rivers, all in a single day, with your bare hands, or perhaps with rudimentary tools. This is where your demigod strength truly shines, not in combat, but in monumental earth-moving. The water, rushing through the stables, carries away decades of accumulated muck, washing the entire area clean in a matter of hours. The torrent of water is powerful, relentless, and disgustingly effective. The stables, once overflowing with filth, are scoured clean, leaving behind nothing but washed-out ground. You've done it. You've achieved the impossible, transforming a putrid wasteland into a clean, albeit wet, expanse. But then, as often happens, a human element complicates things. King Augeas had promised you 1/10 of his cattle as payment if you succeeded. When he sees the stables gleaming clean, he reneges on his promise, claiming you only did it out of obligation to Eurystheus, not for him. His son, Phileus, actually vouches for you, but Augeas stubbornly refuses to pay. Eurystheus, meanwhile, hearing of your success, immediately invalidates this labour too, stating that you performed it for hire, not as penance. It's a double injustice, a true test of your patience. This is the kind of bureaucratic double-crossing that would drive any sane person mad, let alone a powerful demigod with a temper. You're simply trying to atone, and everyone keeps moving the goalposts. Next, you're sent to retrieve the mares of Diomedes. Diomedes, king of the Bistones in Thrace, owned 4 ferocious, man-eating mares: Podargus the Swift, Lampon the Shining, Asanthus the Yellow, and Dinos the Terrible. These weren't just wild horses, they were kept in bronze mangers, fed on the flesh of strangers who dare to venture near, Imagine the horror of their enclosure, the blood-stained ground, the gnawed bones, the unsettling silence broken only by their snorts and the occasional ominous whinny. Eurystheus probably delighted in the prospect of you becoming their next meal. You journey to Thrace, a wild and rugged land. You confront Diomedes, the cruel king, who likely meets you with suspicion and hostility. Some accounts say you battle Diomedes and his men directly, overpowering them in a bloody confrontation. Others suggest a more cunning approach. Regardless, the outcome is the same: you defeat Diomedes, probably in a brutal, direct fight that leaves him lifeless. Then, in a grim act of poetic justice, you feed Diomedes' own body to his mares. It's a macabre detail, but one that swiftly changes the mare's temperament. Once they've consumed their master, their insatiable bloodlust momentarily sated, they become docile enough for you to lead them away. It's a grisly solution, but incredibly effective. Historians still debate whether Diomedes' cruelty was a literal practice or a metaphorical representation of savage rule. But for you, the problem was real and required a definitive, brutal end. You then lead the 4 now docile mares back to Tiryns. This is a journey that probably requires constant vigilance, as their nature is still fundamentally wild and dangerous. You probably have them on the heavy chains, just in case they revert to their natural, man-eating habits. Upon arrival, Eurystheus, again in his jar, is appalled and terrified by the sight of the blood-stained, powerful mares. He offers them as a sacrifice to Hera, who, predictably, refuses them. The mares are then released into the wild, where they eventually lose their ferocity and are devoured by wild beasts, or perhaps die on Mount Olympus. Your task is complete, but the cost, in terms of both blood and moral compromise, is significant. You are becoming desensitized to the brutality, driven only by the grim necessity of fulfilling your penance. Next, a change of pace, but no less perilous: the girdle of Hippolyta. Hippolyta is the queen of the Amazons, a fierce tribe of warrior women who live in Themyscira. On the shores of the Black Sea, her girdle, a symbol of her authority and strength, was a gift from Ares, the god of war. Eurystheus' daughter, Admete, desires this girdle, prompting this rather frivolous-sounding labour. But dealing with a society of formidable warrior women is anything but frivolous. This isn't just about taking an object, it's about navigating a culture built on martial prowess and independence. You set sail for Themyscira, probably with a few companions, given the nature of the task. When you arrive, you approach the Amazons peacefully. Hippolyta herself, impressed by your reputation and perhaps your sheer presence, is quite willing to give you the girdle as a token of goodwill. She recognizes your strength and seems to respect your quest. This could have been one of the easiest labours, a simple exchange, if not for Hera, still utterly determined to see you fail or die, disguised herself as an Amazonian warrior. She goes among the Amazons, spreading rumours that you intend to abduct their queen, to kidnap Hippolyta and enslave their people. Imagine the whispers turning into shouts, the rising tide of suspicion and fury among a tribe known for its quick and decisive action. The Amazons, believing Hera's lies, arm themselves and charge your ship, convinced you were there to betray them. You, seeing the armed Amazons approaching, probably with their war cries echoing across the shore, immediately assume Hippolyta has betrayed you. There's no time for explanations, no moment for diplomatic niceties. You respond with what you know best: swift, decisive, and overwhelming force in the ensuing battle. A tragic misunderstanding fueled by Hera's malicious interference. You kill Hippolyta and seize her girdle. It's a brutal, unnecessary death, a direct consequence of divine meddling. The battle is fierce, but your strength, combined with the Hydra poisoned arrows, ensures your victory. You cut your way through the Amazonian ranks, leaving a trail of fallen warriors, all because of a goddess's petty jealousy. This isn't a glorious conquest, it's a bloody tragedy. You return to Tiryns, probably with the blood-stained girdle of Hippolyta, and Eurystheus, naturally, takes the trophy. He probably doesn't even care about the specifics of how you got it, just that you completed the task. Another queen dead, another society shattered, all for a decorative belt for a spoiled princess. You're learning that heroism often involves collateral damage, and that even when you try to be diplomatic, the gods have other plans for your suffering. The cycle continues, each labour deepening the grim reality of your unwilling servitude. The labours continue, each one a testament to your unending punishment and Eurystheus's boundless cowardice. This time, you're sent on an epic journey, a truly monumental undertaking that will test your endurance and cunning to their absolute limits. You're next tasked to retrieve the cattle of Geryon. This isn't just a herd of cattle, these are magnificent. Reddish-brown cattle guarded by a fearsome, three-bodied giant and his monstrous canine companion, all the way in Erythea, a mythical island far to the west, often identified with the edge of the known world, beyond the pillars of Hercules. Imagine the sheer scale of this journey, not just the danger, but the immense distance and logistical nightmare. You set off, probably with a deep sigh, knowing this won't be a quick trip. Your first major obstacle is reaching Erythea. The island lies in the far west, bordering the stream of Oceanus, a place where the sun sets and the world begins to fade into myth. To get there, you must cross vast stretches of land and sea. You journey through what is now Spain, and as you reach the strait that connects the Mediterranean Sea to the Atlantic Ocean, you perform another act of legendary strength. You erect two massive pillars, one on each side of the strait, to commemorate your journey and perhaps as a marker for sailors. These are the Pillars of Hercules, later known as Gibraltar and Monte Hacho, or Jebel Musa. It's a symbolic act, marking the very edge of the known world, pushing the boundaries of human exploration. Geographical historians still debate the exact location of ancient Geryon's realm, but its placement at the edge of the world signifies the immense distance of your journey. The sun beats down relentlessly as you travel, frustrated by the oppressive heat. You, in a moment of exasperation, fire an arrow at Helios, the sun god himself. This is a classic Hercules move, impulsive and incredibly audacious. Helios, instead of retaliating, is impressed by your sheer nerve. In an unexpected turn of divine assistance, he lends you his magnificent golden cup, a massive vessel that he uses to sail across the ocean every night from west to east. Imagine it a golden, sun-powered boat, incredibly fast, allowing you to traverse the vast expanse of the Oceanus stream. It's a moment of bizarre but crucial divine intervention, demonstrating that even the gods can occasionally be swayed by your sheer force of personality, or perhaps just your inability to be intimidated. You sail in Helios's golden cup, probably feeling a mix of awe and grim determination, until you reach the mythical island of Erythea. This island is home to Geryon, a monstrous being. Geryon is described as having 3 bodies joined at the waist, 6 arms, and wings, or sometimes 3 heads. It's a truly grotesque and terrifying sight, a fusion of nightmares. He is guarded by his monstrous 2-headed dog, Orthrus, the brother of Cerberus, and a giant herdsman named Eurytion. This isn't just a cattle raid, it's an invasion of a monstrous stronghold. Your first confrontation is with Orthrus, the 2-headed dog, probably sniffing you out with its keen senses. Charges you, snarling and snapping, you dispatch it swiftly, using your powerful club or perhaps a well-aimed, Hydra-poisoned arrow. This isn't a drawn-out struggle, it's a quick, brutal execution. Next, the herdsman Eurytion rushes to defend the cattle. You kill him too, probably with similar efficiency. You're not lingering, you're moving with grim purpose, driven by the desire to complete the labour and get back home. Now, the main event, Geryon himself, alarmed by the deaths of his guardians, the three-bodied monster confronts you. This is a true test of your combat prowess. Imagine facing a being with 3 swords, 3 shields, and 6 arms, all working in tandem. It's an overwhelming assault. You fight with all your strength, dodging multiple attacks, looking for an opening. You unleash your formidable club, raining down blows, but it's your Hydra-poisoned arrows that prove decisive. You shoot Geryon with one of these arrows, piercing one of his bodies or heads, depending on the version of the myth. The venom, as we know, is instantly lethal. The multi-bodied giant collapses, writhing as the potent poison courses through his unnatural forms. It's a chaotic, violent end to a truly monstrous being. With Geryon defeated, the cattle are yours, but the labour is far from over. Now begins the incredibly arduous task of driving the vast herd of reddish-brown cattle all the way back to Tiryns. This is not a quick return trip. You herd the cattle back onto Helios's golden cup, sail across the Oceanus, and then begin the overland journey. This is where the real exhaustion sets in. Imagine trying to control thousands of cattle across vast, wild landscapes, through mountains, rivers and plains. It's an immense but frustrating and incredibly boring logistical challenge. You're a cattle herder now, not a glorious hero. The journey is fraught with challenges. As you drive the cattle through what is now France and Italy, various local kings and tribes try to steal parts of the herd. Each attempt means another skirmish, another battle to defend your hard-won prize. In Italy, for example, the giant Hercules, a fire-breathing son of Hephaestus, attempts to steal some of the cattle by dragging them backward into his cave to hide their tracks. You eventually discover his trick, fight him, and kill him, retrieving the stolen animals. This kind of petty theft and constant conflict adds to the sheer exasperation of the journey. You're not just moving cattle, you're perpetually fighting off bandits, wild animals, and local lords. One of the most notable incidents occurs in Sicily, where a bull escapes and swims across to the island. You have to pursue it, retrieve it, and bring it back to the main herd. It's an endless game of cat and mouse, or rather, hero and cattle. The heat, the dust, the constant vigilance, the slow pace, it's all incredibly draining. You spend months, perhaps even a year. On this return journey, it's a testament to your sheer stubbornness and commitment to completing your penance, even when the task itself is mind-numbingly tedious. Ancient sources vary wildly on the exact route and timeline of this journey, a testament to the mythical nature of such a grand undertaking. Finally, after an epic and exhausting journey across continents, you arrive back in Tiryns with the cattle of Geryon. Eurystheus, as always, is probably horrified by the sight of the massive herd, probably convinced they're going to overrun his city. He immediately offers the cattle as a sacrifice to Hera, who, in her typical spite, refuses them. The cattle are then released and disperse, wandering through the Peloponnese. Your labour is complete, a monumental feat of travel, combat, and sheer endurance. You have ventured to the very edge of the world, confronted a three-bodied monster, and returned with his prize, only for it to be dismissed by a cowering king and a vengeful goddess. The injustice of it all must burn, but you are one step closer to your freedom. The relentless cycle continues, with the cattle of Geryon finally delivered and dismissed by Eurystheus. You're immediately handed your next impossible task, one that ventures into the realm of the truly mystical and guarded by divine entities. You are commanded to retrieve the golden apples of the Hesperides. These aren't just any apples, they are sacred, growing on a tree in Hera's garden, a wedding gift from Gaia Mother Earth to Hera. The tree grants immortality to those who eat its fruit, and it's guarded by the Hesperides, 3 nymphs, daughters of Atlas, and by a terrifying, immortal, 100-headed dragon named Ladon. This isn't a simple smash and grab, it's a quest for forbidden fruit, guarded by cosmic forces, located in a place shrouded in mystery at the far western edge of the world, Eurystheus. Knowing the immense difficulty and divine protection surrounding these apples, probably believe this labour would finally be your undoing. Your journey to find the garden of the Hesperides is, once again, a long and arduous one, marked by uncertainty and the need for guidance. The location of the garden is a closely guarded secret, known only to the gods and a few ancient beings. You wander through various lands, seeking information, probably feeling a deep sense of frustration at the lack of clear direction. You encounter various figures along the way, some helpful, some hostile, all adding to the perplexing journey. One significant encounter is with Nereus, the old man of the sea. A shape-shifting prophetic deity, you seize him and hold him fast, despite his attempts to transform into various creatures, like fire and water. You refuse to let go until he reveals the location of the garden of the Hesperides. It's a testament to your stubbornness and your willingness to employ brute force to extract information when diplomacy fails. He eventually relents, providing you with the elusive directions. The motif of holding a shapeshifter to extract information is a common one in ancient Greek mythology, often symbolizing the hero's perseverance against elusive truths. Your travels take you through many lands, including Libya and Egypt. In Libya, you confront the giant Antaeus, a son of Poseidon and Gaia. Antaeus draws his immense strength from touching the earth every time he was thrown to the ground. He would rise stronger. You learn of this peculiar power and adapt your strategy. Instead of wrestling him on the ground, you lift him high into the air, holding him aloft, preventing him from touching his mother, Gaia. Trapped without his source of power, he quickly weakens, and you crush him to death in a suffocating embrace. It's a clever victory, demonstrating your growing strategic thinking, rather than just raw brawn. In Egypt, you face the cruel king Busiris, who had a gruesome custom of sacrificing all foreigners to Zeus, believing it would bring prosperity to his land. You are captured and prepared for sacrifice, but as they attempt to bind you, your immense strength bursts through your bonds. You then turn the tables on Busiris and his priests, sacrificing them all in return. It's a bloody and violent retaliation, a grim reminder that while you seek atonement, you are also a force of immense, barely contained power when pushed. These detours highlight the constant dangers and unpredictable encounters that fill your seemingly simple quest. Eventually, your long and frustrating journey brings you to the mythical land where Atlas holds up the sky. This is where the accounts of this labour diverge significantly, with 2 main versions existing. This academic point is often debated, but for you, the choice of approach is critical. In one version, you simply find the garden and confront Ladon, the 100-headed dragon. This version often portrays you as fighting and killing Ladon directly. Imagine battling a monstrous serpent with 100 heads, each snapping and hissing, guarding the precious golden fruit. It would be a relentless, chaotic struggle, demanding immense skill and probably a few well-placed Hydra-poisoned arrows to finally subdue the immortal beast. After defeating Ladon, you would then simply gather the golden apples yourself. However, the more famous and dramatic version, which perhaps adds more depth to your character, involves the Titan Atlas. You arrive at the edge of the world, a place of immense cosmic weight, and witness Atlas, the mighty Titan, bowed under the crushing burden of the celestial sphere. You understand that direct confrontation with Ladon, an immortal guardian, might be impossible, or at least unnecessarily difficult. You're exhausted, and a direct fight with an immortal dragon sounds like a terrible way to end the quest. You approach Atlas, offering him a deal. You know that Atlas is the father of the Hesperides and thus has direct access to the garden. You propose that you will temporarily take on the burden of holding up the sky, if he, Atlas, will retrieve the golden apples for you. Imagine the weight, the sheer cosmic pressure of the heavens on your shoulders. It's an unimaginable burden, one that would crush any mortal, but you, as a demigod, manage to bear it. The weight is immense, probably causing your muscles to strain and your bones to creak, but you endure. Atlas, perhaps seeing an opportunity for a temporary reprieve, agrees. He goes into the garden and, without trouble, collects the 3 golden apples, but when he returns, holding the apples, he sees his chance to escape his eternal punishment. He tells you that he will deliver the apples to Eurystheus himself, leaving you to bear the immense weight of the sky forever. It's a cunning trick, a desperate move by a prisoner trying to escape his chains. You, however, are not easily outsmarted. You feign agreement, perhaps sighing with relief, and ask Atlas for one small favour, to take the sky back for just a moment so you can adjust your lion-skin padding to better distribute the immense weight. Atlas, gullible in his eagerness to be free, agrees. He takes the sky back onto his shoulders. The moment he does, you seize the golden apples and without a word, turn and walk away, leaving Atlas once again burdened with his eternal punishment. It's a moment of pure wit, triumphing over brute strength, a cunning intellectual victory that highlights a different facet of your heroic capabilities, regardless of which version is true. You return to Tiryns with the golden apples. Eurystheus is, as always, astonished and terrified by your success. These are objects of immense power, divine gifts, and he doesn't know what to do with them. He eventually returns them to you, probably muttering something about them being too sacred or too dangerous for him to possess. You, in turn, dedicated them to Athena, who returns them to the garden of the Hesperides, ensuring their sacred purpose is maintained. Your labour is complete, another impossible task, another journey to the edge of the world, bringing you ever closer to the end of your penance, and perhaps to a fleeting moment of peace. Each labour changes you, shapes you, and reminds you that even with divine power, a hero's life is often a tapestry woven with cunning, suffering, and immense, boring effort. You've faced monstrous beasts, cunning enemies, and navigated the whims of both gods and petty kings. You've journeyed to the edges of the known world, and even temporarily held the very sky. You must be utterly exhausted, your body a roadmap of scars, your mind weary from the endless trials. But Eurystheus, in his infinite malevolence and cowardly desperation to be rid of you, has saved the absolute worst, the most terrifying and psychologically draining task. For last, your final, and arguably most brutal, labour to bring back Cerberus, the 3-headed hound of Hades, guardian of the underworld. Imagine the horror of this demand. This isn't just a monster, it's the living embodiment of death's inescapable grip, a creature that resides in a realm no living mortal is meant to enter or leave, let alone steal from. Cerberus is described with 3 heads, a mane of snakes, a dragon's tail, and dripping with venom. Its roar is said to shake the very foundations of the earth. This task isn't about strength or cunning alone, it's about confronting the ultimate taboo, death itself, and the Lord of the Dead, Hades. Eurystheus fully expects you to fail, to become just another soul, trapped forever in the gloom of the underworld. You prepare for this journey with a solemnity unlike any other. You understand the profound implications of what you are about to do. First, you must seek guidance on how to enter, and, more importantly, leave the underworld alive. You journey to Eleusis and undergo the Eleusinian Mysteries, a sacred series of rites dedicated to Demeter and Persephone. While the specifics of these mysteries were kept secret, they were believed to offer initiates protection in the afterlife and knowledge about the journey to the underworld. Participating in these rituals is crucial, perhaps providing you with the spiritual preparation or divine favour needed for such an audacious undertaking. It's a rare moment where you seek spiritual, rather than just physical, preparation. Historians still debate the precise nature and purpose of the Eleusinian mysteries, but their significance in Greek religious life is undeniable, underscoring the spiritual weight of this labour. With whatever blessings or knowledge the mysteries impart, you then begin your descent into the underworld. There are several rumoured entrances, one at Tenarum in Laconia, another at Lake Avernus in Italy. You choose your path, and the world around you transforms. The air grows heavy, the light fades, and a chilling silence descends, broken only by the distant wails of lost souls. You pass by the shadowy figures of the recently deceased, their forms indistinct, their laments echoing in the gloom. This isn't a vibrant, sunlit quest. It's a terrifying journey into the very heart of despair. You arrive at the banks of the river Styx, the boundary between the living and the dead. Here, you encounter Charon, the ferryman of the dead. He demands payment a coin, traditionally placed under the tongue of the deceased to ferry souls across the river. As a living being, you are an anomaly, an unwelcome intrusion. There are various accounts of how you cross. Some say Charon, perhaps intimidated by your presence or perhaps seeing some divine decree, allows you passage. Others claim you simply overpower him and force your way across. Regardless, you are now on the other side, truly in the realm of the dead. As you venture deeper, you encounter familiar faces, shades of the dead you knew in life, perhaps even the tormented spirits of those you inadvertently harmed in your madness. You might even see the Furies, the terrifying goddesses of vengeance, or the judges of the dead, Minos, Rhadamanthys, and Aeacus. It's a sombre, harrowing journey, forcing you to confront the consequences of life and death, and perhaps the weight of your own past actions. One poignant encounter is with the shade of Meleager, a hero you knew. He appears to you as a ghostly figure, lamenting his fate. In a touching moment, he begs you to marry his sister, Deianira, a promise you later fulfill, a rare moment of human connection amidst the chilling isolation of the underworld. You also encounter Theseus and Pirithous, trapped in chairs, forever bound for their audacity in attempting to abduct Persephone. You manage to free Theseus from his bonds, pulling him from the chair. Though Pirithous remains stuck, it's a display of your compassionate side, offering aid even in this realm of eternal suffering. Finally, you reach the palace of Hades, the grim lord of the underworld, and his queen, Persephone. You don't burst in with sword drawn. Instead, you approach Hades respectfully. You explain your situation, your penance, your desperate need to complete this final labour to atone for your terrible crime. You ask for permission to take Cerberus to the surface, promising to return him. This is a moment of profound humility for you, a demigod known for his strength and often his arrogance. You are pleading with a god who controls the ultimate fate of all mortals. Hades, ever the stern but just ruler, agrees to your request, but with one crucial condition: you must subdue Cerberus without the use of any weapons, relying solely on your bare hands and your immense strength. This is the ultimate test of your raw power, a challenge designed to prevent you from harming his beloved guardian, and to truly test your commitment to the labour. It's a moment of the immense psychological pressure. You are essentially being asked to wrestle death itself. You then confront Cerberus. Imagine the terrifying sight: 3 snarling heads, eyes glowing with malevolent fire, its serpentine tail lashing, the ground shaking with its thunderous growls. Its venomous drool probably steams on the cold stone. This is not a creature to be reasoned with. You grip its throats, one by one, your fingers closing around its scaly flesh. The monster struggles fiercely, its fangs snapping, its claws tearing at your Nemean Lion hide. But your grip is unbreakable. You wrestle with the beast, probably for what feels like an eternity. Muscles straining, sweat pouring from you despite the chill of the underworld. The snakes in its mane hiss and bite. The dragon's tail whips around. But you hold on, your sheer willpower overcoming the beast's supernatural ferocity. You eventually manage to subdue Cerberus, pinning it to the ground, bringing it to heel through sheer, agonizing strength and determination. With Cerberus finally subdued, perhaps growling lowly or whimpering, you begin the arduous journey back to the surface, dragging or leading the immense, three-headed hound up from the depths of the underworld. Is a terrifying spectacle. As you emerge into the light of the sun, Cerberus, unaccustomed to the daylight, vomits a poisonous foam from which the plant aconite is said to have sprung. The sight of you, emerging from the earth with the terrifying guardian of Hades by your side, would have been truly horrifying to any mortal witness. You arrive back in Tiryns with Cerberus. Eurystheus, as expected, is utterly paralysed with fear. He probably doesn't even bother with his bronze jar. He lightly just screams and begs you to get the monster away from him immediately. This is the ultimate proof of your triumph, the undeniable completion of your penance. He orders you to release Cerberus back to the underworld at once. You dutifully return the terrifying hound to its rightful place, fulfilling your promise to Hades. The last labour is complete. You have faced death and returned. The brutal reality of your atonement is over, but the psychological scars, the memories of your madness, and the countless horrors you witnessed and inflicted will remain forever. You are free from Eurystheus' tyranny, but the burden of being Hercules, the demigod hero, is a lifelong sentence. You stand at the precipice of freedom, the final labour of Cerberus completed. Eurystheus' hold over you is broken, the prophecy fulfilled, but the brutal reality of your existence doesn't simply vanish with the completion of your penance. The weight of your past, particularly the unspeakable act committed in your divinely induced madness, remains. This isn't a neat, clean ending where the hero rides off into the sunset. This is the aftermath, a period of lingering shadows, psychological toll, and the search for a peace that forever feels just out of reach. Imagine the silence now. No more commands from Eurystheus, no more monstrous beasts to hunt, no impossible task to fulfill. For a being like you, accustomed to constant exertion and conflict, this sudden void must feel disorienting, perhaps even unsettling. You are free. But what does freedom mean for someone whose entire life has been shaped by divine wrath and violent atonement? You are a walking legend, but a deeply scarred one. The most profound burden you carry is the memory of killing your wife, Megara, and your children. Even though it was induced by Hera's madness, the act was committed by your hands. That memory is not something that simply fades away. It haunts you, a pervasive, suffocating guilt that no amount of heroic deeds can truly erase. You probably relive those moments in your nightmares, the faces of your loved ones morphing into the grotesque images of the monsters you've slain, your own hands stained with their innocent blood. This is the brutal reality of mental anguish for a hero. There's no ancient Greek equivalent of therapy, no support group for demigods who accidentally murdered their families. You carry this burden alone, a silent scream beneath your hardened exterior. Psychological historians often analyse ancient myths through the lens of trauma, and your story certainly offers a rich case study. Despite your freedom from Eurystheus, you continue to face challenges. Your reputation, while awe-inspiring, also precedes you, often drawing you into new conflicts or bringing new demands. The world doesn't simply let Hercules retire. You are still the strongest man on earth, a force of nature, and that power inevitably attracts both admiration and trouble. You likely find yourself wandering, unable to settle, perhaps seeking new quests to distract yourself from your inner demons. The heroic path, it seems, is less a choice and more an inescapable destiny. One such path leads you to a new marriage, as promised to the shade of Meleager in the underworld. You seek out and marry Deianira, Meleager's sister. This marriage offers a glimmer of hope for a stable, peaceful life, a chance to rebuild what was shattered. But even this new beginning is fraught with danger and tragedy, reminding you that peace is a fragile thing for you. Your past actions and the lingering effects of divine interference continue to cast a long shadow. The story of the centaur Nessus is a perfect example of how seemingly small events can have catastrophic consequences for you as you and Deianira are travelling. You encounter Nessus, a centaur, acting as a ferryman across a swollen river. Nessus attempts to abduct or assault Deianira as he carries her across. You, enraged by his treachery, shoot him with one of your Hydra-poisoned arrows. As Nessus dies, he gives Deianira a seemingly innocuous gift, a vial of his blood, telling her it's a love charm that will ensure your fidelity. This is a cunning trick, a final act of revenge. Deianira, perhaps out of genuine love and a desire to secure your affections, takes the vial, unaware that the centaur's blood is now infused with the lethal, corrosive venom of the Hydra from your arrow. This poisoned shirt, a callback to your second labour, will be your undoing. Another major episode that illustrates your post-labour struggles is your involvement in the capture of Hercules. You fall in love with Iole, the daughter of King Eurytus of Hercules. King Eurytus, however, refuses to give his daughter to a man who had murdered his previous family. Understanding the deep stain on your past, this rejection, coupled with a fit of lingering madness or perhaps simply your volatile temper exacerbated by trauma, leads to another tragedy. You lash out, throwing Iphitus, Eurytus' son, from a high wall. This act of violence, again, brings down a new wave of guilt and demands for atonement. You seek purification once more, but this time, the process is even more humiliating. You consult the Oracle of Delphi again, but the priestess, disgusted by your repeated acts of violence, refuses to give you a prophecy. In a fit of rage, you attempt to steal the Delphic tripod, the symbol of Apollo's oracle, intending to set up your own oracle. This leads to a wrestling match with Apollo himself, a god. Zeus intervenes, separating you both with a thunderbolt, as punishment, and as a way to truly atone for this new transgression. The oracle decrees that you must serve a mortal queen as a slave for a year. This is the ultimate humiliation a demigod, the hero of the 12 labours, forced into servitude once more, but this time not for the monstrous crimes of the past, but for your own uncontrollable rage. You are sold to Omphale, the queen of Lydia, for a period of 1 to 3 years. This period is famously depicted as one of profound emasculation and comedic inversion of your heroic image. Omphale forces you to dress in women's clothes, spin wool, and perform domestic chores, while she wears your Nemean Lion skin and wields your club. Imagine the psychological blow to your ego. The mighty Hercules, reduced to spinning yarn for a queen. It's a humbling and undoubtedly frustrating experience, a stark contrast to the glorious battles of your past. The Omphale episode is often interpreted by mythologists as a symbolic reversal of gender roles or a period of required humility for the hero. Even after your servitude to Omphale, peace remains elusive. Your immense strength, though a gift, is also a curse. You're constantly drawn into conflicts, forced to defend yourself or others, unable to escape the violent nature of your existence. You become a wandering hero, righting wrongs, slaying monsters that plague other lands, but always seeking a deeper purpose, a true redemption that feels forever out of reach. The heroes you meet, The cities you save, they all see the glory, but few understand the relentless burden you carry. The internal battle that rages long after the external monsters are slain. Your triumphs are countless, your name synonymous with strength, but beneath it all, you are a man haunted by the past, forever seeking an elusive peace. The legacy of your labours is not just about the monsters you defeated, but about the profound personal cost of heroism, the unending quest for atonement, and the brutal reality that even after 12 impossible tasks, a hero's suffering is far from over. You've lived a life of immense power, profound tragedy, and relentless struggle. The 12 labours are complete. Your service to Omphale is over, but the thread of your destiny, woven by gods and fate, still has one final, brutal knot to tie, the culmination of your life, a final, agonizing chapter that underscores the very nature of your existence' immense power, ultimately leading to immense suffering and a conflicted legacy. Your death, like much of your life, is rooted in the tragic misunderstanding involving the centaur Nessus. Remember that vial of his blood, tainted with Hydra venom, which he gave to Deianira, claiming it was a love charm, that seemingly innocuous gift, held onto by your loving wife, becomes the instrument of your excruciating demise. This is a cruel irony, a callback to the Hydra, a monster you defeated early in your labours, now indirectly causing your end. Years pass, and your life with Deianira, though often punctuated by your heroic adventures and occasional bouts of rage, has continued. You eventually become infatuated with Iole, the princess of Oechalia, the same Iole whose father had refused to give her to you, leading to your violent outburst against Iphitus. You finally succeed in taking Oechalia, and Iole becomes your captive. Deianira, consumed by jealousy and fearing she is losing your love, remembers Nessus's deceptive gift. She truly believes that Nessus's blood, mixed with her own efforts, will rekindle your affection and prevent you from leaving her for Iole. In a desperate attempt to win you back, Deianira takes the poisoned blood and spreads it onto a magnificent robe, which she then sends to you. She intends it as a powerful love charm, a grand gesture of her devotion. You, unsuspecting, don the robe, perhaps for a sacrifice to Zeus on Mount Oeta, or for a celebration of your recent victory. The moment the robe warms on your skin, the Hydra's venom, contained within Nessus's blood, begins its horrific work. Imagine the agonizing pain that erupts. The venom, perhaps inactive in the vial, becomes virulently active with your body heat. It doesn't just burn, it fuses to your flesh, searing your skin, dissolving your muscles, and excruciatingly eating away at your very being. You try to tear the robe off, but it pulls away chunks of your flesh. The pain is unimaginable, far beyond any wound you've ever sustained in battle. It's a slow, torturous death, your immense strength now working against you, preventing a quick demise. Your roars of agony echo through the mountains, a sound of pure, unadulterated suffering. You try to tear out the poisoned flesh, to cut away the pain, but it only intensifies. Medical historians and toxicologists have often analysed the descriptions of Hercules' death, noting the similarities to certain forms of poisoning and skin necrosis, adding a grim, pseudoscientific layer to the myth. When Deianira learns of the horrific consequences of her misguided act, she is consumed by grief and despair. Realizing the terrible mistake she has made, she takes her own life. Another tragedy, another innocent death directly linked to your tormented existence. Recognizing that your agony is unending, and that death is the only escape, you order your companions to build a great funeral pyre on Mount Oeta. This isn't a passive death, it's a final, deliberate act of agency, a hero dictating the terms of his own agonizing end. No one initially dares to light the pyre, fearing the blasphemy of burning a demigod. Finally, your loyal friend, Philoctetes, lights the pyre. You give him your bow and arrows as a reward, symbols of your legendary prowess. As the flames consume your mortal body, something extraordinary happens. The mortal part of you, the part that suffered and endured, burns away. But your divine essence, the part inherited from Zeus, ascends. From the heart of the roaring inferno, you are taken up to Mount Olympus, the realm of the gods. You have passed through the fire, purified by the agonizing crucible of your own death. On Olympus, you are greeted by the gods. Even Hera, your lifelong tormentor, finally relents. Her hatred, perhaps sated by your immense suffering and ultimate apotheosis, finally subsides. You are fully embraced into the pantheon, granted immortality and welcomed as a full god. You marry Hebe, the goddess of youth, and live among the Olympians, finally finding a form of peace, a reward for a life of unparalleled struggle and atonement. It's a bittersweet victory, the ultimate triumph bought at the price of unimaginable pain and loss. Your legacy is immense and multifaceted, shaping Western culture for millennia. You are the archetype of the hero, the embodiment of strength, courage and endurance. Your labours became a metaphor for impossible tasks, for overcoming overwhelming obstacles through sheer will and physical prowess. The phrase, Herculean effort, is still used today to describe any task requiring immense strength or determination, but your legacy is also far more complex than just raw strength. You represent the flawed hero, the demigod grappling with human weaknesses, prone to fits of rage and moments of deep despair. You are a symbol of atonement, of the possibility of redemption even after committing unspeakable acts. Your story explores themes of divine intervention, the arbitrary nature of fate, and the profound cost of greatness. The ongoing academic debate surrounding your character often focuses on whether you are a purely positive figure or a morally ambiguous one, reflecting the complexities of ancient Greek ethical thought. Through the centuries, your image has been reinterpreted countless times. In ancient Greece, you were a popular hero, depicted in countless sculptures, vase paintings and plays, embodying the physical ideal. The Romans adopted you as Hercules, emphasizing your civilizing influence and patronizing travelers and merchants. In the Renaissance, you became a symbol of virtue overcoming vice, your muscular form a favored subject for artists. In modern times, you appear in comics, movies, and video games, often simplified into a one-dimensional strongman, losing some of the nuance and tragedy of your original myths. But for those who delve deeper, your story remains a potent reminder of the brutal reality of heroism. It is not just about slaying monsters, it's about enduring unending physical and psychological pain, navigating divine interference, battling personal demons, and ultimately finding a form of peace only after a life of relentless suffering. Your life, the life of Hercules, is a testament to the fact that even for a demigod, the path to glory is paved with more than just monsters. It's paved with pain, loss, and the eternal, wearing fight for a shred of peace. The stories have been told, the battles fought, the burdens borne. You've journeyed with Hercules through the brutal realities of his 12 labours and beyond, witnessing his superhuman strength, his profound suffering, and his ultimate ascent. Now, as the final echoes of his legend fade, it's time to gently ease away from the world of myth and into the quiet embrace of sleep. Think of the enduring power of these ancient tales. Hercules isn't just a character, he's an archetype, a symbol that has permeated countless cultures and continues to resonate today. His struggles with divine malice, his moments of uncontrolled rage, his quest for atonement, these are themes that speak to the universal human experience. Even for those of us without demigod strength, we see ourselves in his fight against overwhelming odds, in his moments of despair, and in his eventual, hard-won peace. The The pervasive nature of the Hercules myth across diverse cultures and historical periods is a testament to its fundamental appeal. Often studied in comparative mythology for its recurring narrative patterns, consider how the very concept of heroism has been shaped by figures like Hercules. We often envision heroes as flawless paragons of virtue, but Hercules reminds us that true heroism can emerge from immense flaws, from terrible mistakes, and from a life not of choice, but of relentless obligation. He teaches us that endurance, even in the face of injustice and unimaginable pain, is a form of courage. His story is a nuanced tapestry, far more complex than the simple tales of monster slaying often presented. He embodies the duality of human and demigod nature, capable of immense good, but also prone to destructive impulses. As you drift now, let your mind gently wander over the images we've explored tonight. The terrifying roar of the Nemean Lion, the endless heads of the Lernaean Hydra, the year-long chase of the Ceryneian Hind. Picture the bronze birds scattering, the clean waters rushing through Augean Stables, the fear in Eurystheus' eyes as you returned with each impossible trophy. Recall of the distant journeys, to the land of Geryon and the garden of the Hesperides, culminating in the chilling descent into the underworld and the triumphant, yet horrifying, return with Cerberus, each one a testament to the extraordinary and often agonizing path he walked. But also remember the quiet moments, the immense personal cost, the grief over his lost family, the humiliation under Queen Omphale, the agonizing, slow burn of the poisoned robe. These are the moments that bring the legend back to earth, grounding the fantastical feats in raw, human-like suffering. It's a reminder that even the mightiest among us face trials that transcend physical strength, trials of the spirit and the heart. Let these images, now softened by the veil of approaching sleep, become distant whispers. The grand narratives, the epic struggles, they are merely echoes in the quiet of your room. Your bed is a sanctuary, a calm harbour after a long voyage through ancient lands and heroic deeds. The ambient hum of the fan, the gentle darkness, these are your companions now, guiding you deeper into rest. There's nothing left to fear, no monsters to face, no labours to complete tonight. Your own journey is one of peace and tranquility. As the stories settle, feel your muscles relax, your breathing deepen and slow. Every breath in brings calm, every breath out releases any lingering tension. The weight of the day, like the burden Atlas carried, is lifting from your shoulders. You are safe, you are warm, you are ready for the profound quiet that sleep offers. Let the ancient world fade, and let your own dreams take hold. And now, good night, and have a sweet dream.